Hello, everybody. This is Diana speaking. Can you hear me? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello, Diliana?
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but where are the others?
Wow.
Oh,
Alexander's here.
okay. So I will try just to add people, then it will take time. Well, I have no idea why it happens like this, but at least I can hear you.
Yeah.
So it will be a little bit delayed, but I hope. Yeah, just give me some time.
I think you might need to add Carla as well.
It
Yeah.
worked completely on its own on my phone. I didn't need to do anything and I was so worrying. Oh,
Yeah, that's good. That's good, but yeah. Mm. Several people sent me notes today that they are busy and they will not be able to show up.
Okay.
But yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, I did call them.
do you have to add every person separately?
Well, I sent invitations. People have
People didn't want.
but I don't know why. I really don't know. I have to add them manually. It was so done easy with the other platform I used. Nobody's joining. Sorry, it is you?
I'm still here.
It's what I first called. I can get now.
I think Alex has dropped off now.
No,
Oh, no,
no.
no, she's still there. She's still there.
I can hear her.
Carla's not here, though, is she?
How about the others?
No, just those three at the moment.
There were some people writing, I think, in the group.
Arriving? Did you say arriving? I keep on sending invitations. But why do I need to do that when I get them the link already? It's written 9 viewers, 7 viewers now. But there is nobody else in the control room. Alexander Moore and ENIL Youth. Where are these viewers?
Oh, is the camera on?
No.
No, mine isn't.
Can you
Not
see my phone
yours.
if I touch my phone? I mean, here.
We're not putting the cameras on, I don't think.
No, no.
Huh.
No, she's here.
Is she here?
Oh.
Carla said she's got an error and she can't join.
Why not?
I think she's when she presses it, it says error, and she's wondering why.
Ah.
There are just more other buttons here so that. Who can I hear? Alex,
Hey?
is there somebody next to you? Because I can hear some other voices.
That's my phone. I think you hear my phone.
Ah, you mean your screen reader?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I can wait.
No, it's not disturbing me. I just wanted to know whether there is anybody.
Okay, I turned it off. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, Carla says she can hear us in the video, but she can't talk. But where is she then? Juliana, Carl is asking you to add her again.
Okay. Was this Carla? Okay, I did Carla again.
Camille says he can hear us, by the way.
Camille can hear us.
Yeah, maybe everyone can hear us.
Okay, but I don't see the participants.
Thank you for joining us.
Excuse us, everybody, whoever hears us, that we are delayed. We're not going to make this too long. It's just our first time on Google Hangouts, and it's difficult for a technical victim like me.
Hi!
Carla!
Hey, finally!
Finally, hi Carla.
I'm here.
Okay, there are just several more people.
Hi!
Carla!
Hey, finally! Finally! What about? I have this connect.
As long as we can hear you, Alex, it's okay. Camille says that he can hear us. Thank you, Camille. That's good. But she's online. She appears in the group.
Oh,
Carla.
yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't see anybody from the participants. Although Camille says that he can hear us, that's so strange. I can't see him. It says we have 10 viewers, so I think we are having some audience. And I really apologize for these technical issues. But Okay, Ivo says that he can hear us as well. So I think we can start. We can hear. Okay, we can't hear everybody, but they can hear us. So I think we should start. And as we're very much delayed, I will. Yeah, yeah. There are other participants who message me saying that they can hear us as well. Yes, thank you, everybody. That was a very harsh start. Thank you for your patience. Whoever is still here. I'm going to mute the other microphones now so that we don't hear too much noise. And I'm doing that now. This is the first webinar, obviously, that the Youth Network is holding. It is on the same topic as the study session we had recently. So the topic of this webinar is sexuality and relationships is integral to our social inclusion and independent living. And we're going to have several presentations today by the leaders of the study session in Strasbourg. These are going to be Alexandra Surua, Nora Griffiths, and Carla Blanco, who was actually a participant in the study session. So because we are very much delayed, I'm going to give the floor now to Alexandra, who is going to start her presentations, and I will try to show you her PowerPoint presentations. But I give the floor to Alex now. Alex, can you?
Thank you, Diliana. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Oh, great. So, to start with, I would like to thank to those who are still here listening to us. I promise we're not going to make you sleep. Especially not because today's topic of the webinar is extremely interesting, as we would like to speak about the study session we have just organized nearly 2 months ago in second half of April in Strasbourg. And the study session was about sex and relationships, obviously. The study session comprised of 22 participants together with their personal assistants and the organizing team. It lasted for a whole week, or to say 6 consecutive working days. And we are proud to say that we had participants from more than 10 countries, from Georgia, Moldova, Romania, UK. Some of them, it was even the first time for them to leave their own countries on their own, which we are very proud of, to be able to motivate people so very much to do this. So as I said, this is the third study session of ENIL in cooperation with the Youth Department of the Council of Europe. The first 2 were one in 2012. It was the first one, and it was about the leadership of young disabled people. The second study session in 2014, it was about multi-discrimination. And of course, they were both comprised of disabled youth. In the first study session in 2012, we had there has been the need, we identified the need of young people to join together, young disabled youth to join together and to collaborate more. Therefore, the Facebook group was created, which was also later on last year the platform of our now formalized youth network. So it was all thanks to those 2 study sessions. Another thing that came out of those 2 study sessions is also identifying of the need of people to speak about sexual issues and about reproductive rights and LGBTQ communities and sexual education in general, because we noted that there has been a severe lack of sexual education when it comes to educating disabled people, particularly disabled youth. So we all agreed that organizing an event on the topic of sexuality and relationship is very important and would be beneficial to young disabled youth all over Europe. We also noted that women or young girls are particularly discriminated when it comes to sexual education because they do not know sufficiently enough. They are not educated sufficiently enough. So all these were the reasons for us to start thinking of the study session that happened this year. So now we are moving to aims, and as you can see, the aims of the study session were to raise awareness among disabled people about their rights concerning sexuality and relationships in the context of social inclusion and independent living, and promoting leadership and empowerment. Diliana, can you mute the microphones? Okay. Promoting leadership and empowerment among disabled youth. So these were the aims of our study session. And then there were also the objectives, which were to promote social inclusion of disabled youth by providing them with a safe space to explore how sexuality and relationships relate to social inclusion and achievement of independent living. Another objective we had was to produce materials which support disabled youth across Europe to explore their sexual identities and relationships, and also to empower disabled youth so that they can be leaders in their communities and support other young disabled people to understand their rights around sexuality and relationships. And also to give disabled youth the needed skills to explore sensitive issues through non-formal education as part of their efforts to promote independent living of disabled people, and then to encourage disabled youth to understand the connection between the independent living philosophy and women's rights and issues of connected to LGBT community, and to work in collaborative way with different groups in their countries. So these objectives sound quite fancy and boring maybe. However, we did our best to make it as interesting as possible. Therefore, as I said before, the event was comprised of 6 consecutive days, where we had topics divided every day. Every day was a different topic, making sure that we go into the details slowly, so that participants have enough time to make themselves feel at ease and to make themselves feel safe in the group, because creating the safe space, as I have stated before, is a very important thing. So the first day we were making some introductions, presenting our aims and objectives. We presented the program of the study session to the participants. We made sure that all access needs that participants might have are met, and we also gave them the opportunity to speak up in case there is something that still needs to be done. The next thing was very important, which was giving them practical information and making sure we are in a safe space all together. So this was the first day. And the second day was a little bit more specific. We were speaking about the social model of disability and sexuality and identity. These sound very scary topics, but we made sure that by using non-formal methods of non-formal education, we made it as smooth and as comprehensive as possible. Therefore, we took into account that not everyone is comfortable to speak in front of everybody, also because of lack of maybe English speaking skills. So a lot of our work also during the other days was kept in small groups. So on Wednesday was a little bit lighter, because in the morning we were speaking, we had our external guest, which was Teresa Luckstein, I believe. She came right from Austria to speak to us about sexuality and reproductive rights. And in the afternoon, then participants had a little bit of free time so that they don't burn out already in the very beginning. The fourth day, Thursday, was a very productive day, because we first started to speak about stereotypes that genders are facing, the opposite genders. And we also spoke a little bit about gender-based violence. Another thing we were speaking, and is very important, is also equality in relationships and negotiating safe sex. The equality and respect in relationship was a special lecture given by another external speaker, Embla, from Iceland, who is a queer activist and was a pleasure to listen to. The fifth day on the fifth day we started going into the action. So in the morning, we were speaking about mobilized actions. We gave people lesson on campaigning and advocacy. And then we wanted to make those theoretical parts come into something real. So we together joined all together the May 5th campaign you have probably already heard about, which was the campaign that we were creating for the May 5th, the Independent Living Day. And then we invited participants to work individually and to think of their future plans, what they want to do, and how they want to spread the news about their work and our work. Saturday was a more reflective day. In the morning, we were speaking about Youth Network. We were inviting participants to speak about to reflect on their individual plans, how they want to spread the information about this study session. We let them talk in pairs to discuss and to also to bring messages for us, for ENIL Youth team, to see, you know, what they understood out of this study session. And of course, in the afternoon, the most interesting part, evaluation, which everyone loved very much. I hope so. And then, well, then was the time to go home the next day. So let me conclude that we really tried to, we made a big effort to make sure that everyone was included, that everyone got to know each other before we started diving into more personal and sensitive topics, which was on Thursday and Wednesday. We were using methods, as I said before, of non-formal education, which were very, we tried to be as creative as possible. However, not excluding any of participants. So regardless of their disability, because we had participants with very different disabilities, we always made sure that everyone was absolutely included in the group. And one of the most important things that I would like to conclude with was that what we actually tried to do in our study session was also to give participants ideas and motivation to go in their own countries, identify problems and issues, and kind of self-organize and spread the news about our work and also about their work and about the problematics we have been talking about for a whole week. So hopefully we succeeded at least a little bit. And now I would like to invite Carla to continue with her presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear it very well. You can start your presentation. I will start your PowerPoint.
Okay. So, for those who don't know me yet, I'm from the Independent Living Center here in Portugal, which was created last year. I am also a research assistant in social psychology, and in general, I am interested in themes related to social oppression, disability, and feminism. I will try to give you an overall look through the major issues we work in the study session. should I wait? Juliana.
Go on, Kawai. We can hear you.
Okay. So as you know, we have some bad stereotypes and myths related to disability, related to disabled people's sexuality. As we move away from the normative standards of white, hetero, and able-bodied, more we are seen as strange and someone who are not supposed to feel, want, or have pleasure. In general, disabled people are seen as asexual, as you already know, so having no interest or not being able to feel desire or satisfaction. Or they are seen as hypersexual and perverts. This is mostly related to intellectual disability. There is also this idea that disabled people are not attractive and desirable and nobody wants to have a relationship with them. Of course, there are people who don't want, as people who don't want to have a relationship with other kind of people, fat, black, short, chinas, whatever. And of course, there are prejudices from people and their family and their friends that damage relationships, and there is a lack of education in that sense. But it's not true that nobody wants to have a relationship with a disabled person. In this study session, we discussed this idea that it's more convenient disabled people have relationships with other disabled people. And some people there spoke of their positive experience with both disabled partners. In one hand, with disabled partners, some people say that there is more understanding of issues related to disability without having to talk about it. And in other hand, with able partners, people feel more challenged in a good way. There are also these myths about penetrative sex being only the real and better sex, which must be spontaneous and unplanned, and we're always seeing in movies and series people having sex in lifts suddenly and in other areas. And we learn it wrongly through life what is good and bad sex. And we feel this kind of pressure to adapt as and try to be more as the normative standard and to do things as as it is supposed or normal as possible and not in a boring way. And we lose the opportunity of self-discovery and knowledge. We should search and find our ways to enjoy relationships and sex and communicate openly about that with our partners. So, gender roles are extensible to disabled people. Women have to deal with stereotypes, with their gender expectation roles of to be beauty and perfect and a good mother, wife and caregiver, while men have to deal with the masculinity standards of strength and bravery, provider and protector. We discussed also in the study session this quote: disabled people find it difficult to be successful parents. Because beyond the physical barriers, we have all the prejudices related to gender roles. Maybe disabled men don't have a job and the financial resource to be the provider of the family, and maybe disabled women are seen as unable to be a good mother and take care of the child, and they are seen as selfish by wanting to be a mother. many times we have this perception, and I think it's true in terms of statistics, that it's easier or more likely for disabled men have relationships and family than for disabled women in heterosexual relationships, which is also related to these gender roles in general, because men search in women the beauty standard and the good mother for their children, and disabled women don't fit in the beauty standard and are not seen as able to be a good mother, while due to the caregiver and effective role of women in general, it's most likely to disabled men find a female partner. So in relationships between these and able people, we talk about that men are always seen as heroes. When able men have a relationship with a disabled woman, they are seen as angel and good guys, sacrificing their lives. And when a disabled man have a relationship with an able woman, they are seen as heroes for conquer her and a lucky guy to have someone better. And if he broke with her, he's crazy for waste such woman. Disabled people in homosexual relationships and who have a sexual orientation different from heteronormativity face a double discrimination, facing prejudices based in their disability and also in their sexuality, being even more a big taboo. But an able partner of a disabled person facing public in all relationships, facing public, friend, and family prejudices, hearing people opinions about if they should or not be with a disabled person, how they want to be with that person, and how much they will suffering in future because that person's condition. It's like something they should be ashamed, and of course this is harmful for relationships. As we learning be through life and be socialized with our message about categories, male, female, able, disabled, white, black, hetero, homo, and as we will build our identities and images, the media communication have a major role in forming norms, and we have a big lack of representation on media, like in movies and series, magazines, fashions, etc. Disabled people are often represented as freak and bizarre, or in a victimizing way with a horrible life, with suffering and wants to die. And in some of the most popular movies, disabled mothers are white, heterosexual, and men. There is some actions including more representative bodies nowadays, mostly in fashion and photography, but we need more representativeness of all kinds of bodies in all kinds of communication channels. Our identity and the social oppression and discrimination faced by social groups are based in a crisscross of social attributes and categories like gender, age, ability, sexuality, race, class, and so on. And its combination can produce more oppression and discrimination. We are talking about intersectionality, but generally, communities and movements don't talk to each other and have prejudices about each other and don't embrace problems together. For example, there is homophobia in disabled community and ableism in queer community, and the same to feminism and race and etc. We must be allies. So the social model of disability assume that disabled people are only disabled by society and its barriers, which prevent people of participate and live in society in equal terms. The problem is in society and not in the person, contrary to medical model in which the problem in the person. Beyond the prejudices, physical barriers are preventing people from spaces of interaction and building relationships, which is particularly important because the lack of contact fosters prejudices and the fear of unknown and isolate disabled people and prevent and harm relationships. We have national and international instruments on the rights of persons, more globally, like the human rights, and more specific for some groups like the women's and children rights. And we have since 2008 the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which recommends measures and laws by state parties to ensure disabled people's rights, and have as principles the independence, the dignity and non-discrimination of disabled people. It has an optional protocol which gives the opportunity to individuals or groups to complain on violations on the rights in the Convention to the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, if they are from a state party. With these instruments, we can protest for our rights and demand for proper legislation. Now, I will approach some rights towards relationships and health, and at the same time, some problems we shared in the study session related to these rights and their multiple application. So, the Convention states that disabled people must have access to public buildings like hospitals, schools, and transport. They should have the right to say what they want, to find out and give information as everyone else, and access to health services, including family planning, and health professionals should give the same service to disabled people. So these rights have to do with accessibility, information, and health. But disabled people often found physical barriers to buildings, like to the health centers, and lack of technical and personal assistance to help them in medical appointments. For example, undressing or lifting devices to medical stretchers or braille communication and sign language. And due to health prejudices and wrong ideas about disabled people's lives, there is also lack of information available, and health professionals don't give the same service to disabled people due to the assumptions about what we think and what we do. Why a doctor will talk to a disabled woman about contraceptive and sexual health if it's not supposed that we have sex, right? Our other rights related to marriage and family points that disabled people have equal rights to marriage, family, and personal relationships. But as we talked about, there are physical barriers preventing social interactions and relationships, as well as prejudices promoting fear and awkwardness. People don't know how to approach a disabled person and talk about relationships and sex. And there are prejudices by friends and family. Even parents don't know how to talk about sex with their children. In some countries, there is also a lack of rights about homosexual relationships regarding marriage and adoption of children. Disabled people have the right to decide if they want to have children, how and when, and not to be sterilized against their will. And the disabled people should have support to bring up their children, and so families with disabled children. But for some doctors, it isn't a choice, and society keeps blaming and shaming disabled people who won't have children, as they were selfish and not able to take care of them. And there is a lack of parents and technical assistance, like proper coats and carriages, visual and hearing aids, and personal assistance. And the physical barrier, and there are physical barriers preventing parents' participation in children's lives, like to schools, backgrounds, and health services. Other rights have to do with disabled women and girls. Disabled women and girls should have full, free, and equal lives. Countries agree that women and girls who are disabled are treated unfairly in lots of different ways. But we're still fighting against gender-based stereotypes and violence. Disabled people should be treated as people first. Their minds and bodies are their own and must be respected. But we are trained to have no boundaries or personal space, like in the care system and in social interactions. We are always being approached to know persons who want to only ask, what's happened with you, or pray with us. Countries should have proper laws and rules to protect disabled people from violence and prevent abuse, with proper support, information, and training about how to see abuse and how to report it, and give the help and support for disabled people who have been abused, recover, and keep them safe. But there is still a lack of information and training on how to see it and report it, and a lack of accessible shelters for disabled people who are victims and don't have a place to go, and other conditions to help the victim who don't have financial resources. So these were the rights we talk on the study session and the issues related to them. And so the main issues we found are related to physical barriers, to make relationships, to assess health service and participate in kids' life. Are related also to prejudices about sexuality, relationships, and maternity. Are related to lack of parental and technical assistance, and gender-based stereotypes and violence. So we have to work for the change in these main areas: accessibility, awareness, we are sexual beings, we can and want to have relationships, fight gender roles, and approach sexual identities and orientation.
Thank you, Karma. I think it's time to keep the floor to Miro because we are running out of time. Can you have your concluding words?
Do you want that I finish?
Yeah, if you can do that.
Okay. So, okay. We can campaign and make awareness, for example, about our rights, body and beauty. We may think that it's difficult and require a lot of money, but nowadays you can do that easily with internet and social networks like Facebook, blogs, Twitter, and so on. We must take internet advantage for communication and dissemination. We can share stories and ideas as a way to empower us and break stereotypes. We should build a good network. We can build a local group, small, and interact with others, national and international groups. and find media allies to promote our causes. And we can hold a protest to demand of our rights, or claiming public service which don't are accessible. To finish, I would like to remember these important things that we talk about: self-acceptance and self-esteem. Love ourselves and our bodies is the first step to reach fulfilling relationships, love, and sex. We need to look and to know ourselves, what we want from life, from us, from other people, what we want and not want to do and when. We don't have to have sex to anybody just because they take a drink with us or give some attention to us. What is pleasure to me and how can I get the great pleasure of my relationships? Understand that sex is more to do with our minds and feelings and less to do with strength and ability, and communicate our needs and desires open with our partners, and build positive identities. It's very important. We know other disabled persons with all kinds of disabilities and see how great we are and how we do good things, empowering us. This is an important part of our self-acceptance and self-esteem. And yes, I'm finished. I pass the word to Miro.
Thank you, Carla and Alex. I'm hoping everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Liliana, I can't see my slides, so I'm assuming you can click through the slides. Is that?
I tried to do that with Carlos as well, but I'm sorry, today all technology is against me, so I will.
Okay, that's fine. But so are you able? I can see my slides on my computer, but are you able to flick through them for me?
Yeah, if you can do that.
Yeah, I'll just talk then. I mean, I can talk what's on the slides.
Mhm.
Okay, I won't take up too much time because I'm obviously conscious of time. And I think Carla and Alex have excellently summarised what's been the key points of the study session, and indeed the wider topic of sexuality and relationships. I suppose there's kind of three areas that we can think about in terms of the key outcomes associated with the study session. One was an exploration around what is the responsibility for trying to advance the inclusion of disabled people within the realms of sexuality and relationships. And I suppose then you can break into three areas. One is around the individual. So indeed about actually the outcomes associated with how does an individual explore issues to do with sexual identity, access to and the formulation of relationships, be it in terms of sexual relationships or not. So we were able then to see actually the personal connections between the participants and the material that we were covering, which Alex kind of highlighted too in terms of how some of the sessions were organized. But we also started to develop dialogue and conversations around the collective and thinking about what can we do as organizations or as groups, thinking about the importance of social movements to really start to bring together these different parts of the discourse or the conversations that we're having, and actually recognize the importance of having that shared and open dialogue. So not only have we got the individual, but we've also got the collective then, in terms of having young disabled people from across Europe thinking about their experiences, thinking about their social classes, thinking about their impairment groups, and so forth, and then having that opportunity to really connect to the key information. And that kind of then took us on to look at issues around society and the societal importance of what we're talking about. So not only are we seeing the personal development and the personal liberation, but we're also starting to think about what is the society's responsibility, and that's kind of mapped onto what we think about when we talk about the social model of disability. So we really wanted to try to take some of the key points from the social model of disability around physical or the built environment, as well as attitudes, as well as public and private and governmental structures, to think about what is society's responsibility to ensure that our exploration as disabled people in relation to sexuality and relationships is progressing in a direction where we're going to reduce inequality and move towards inclusion. So by the end of the study session, really, we had this idea that actually we can think about it in terms of the individual, we can think about it in terms of collective, and finally we can think about it in terms of societal. And this allowed us to have further engagement, and the need really that many people at the study session demonstrated that there was a willingness and a desire to engage with various groups and individuals, be it more individuals within the disabled people's movement, who may be known to ENIL, who may be not known to ENIL, but also to think about who else is key to this. And we kind of highlighted areas around government structures, Council of Europe, people within the political infrastructures across the member states of Europe, as well as organizations that had an interest in sexuality, who may not actually be associated with disability, but may also be looking at other experiences of marginalization. So, for example, groups who have dedicated to exploring LGBTQIA and so forth. So, and that kind of led us into the last area, which was around the campaigning and mapping. So there's opportunity to think about what already exists out there, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, nor do we actually want to mobilize and take the hard work and the dedication that other individuals and organizations are making. So we really wanted to be able to be in a position to plan and map what is currently going on. And then I want to just take you to the next slides around the task group. So after we had the end of the study session, we really thought about how do we continue this work? How do we move it on from the learning within a study session to then take it into the area of embedding it within the core development of ENIL Youth? And we agreed that we wanted to create a task group based on sexuality and relationships. And the task group would be a formalized subgroup or working group within the Youth Network, which itself is a formalized subgroup within the European Network on Independent Living. So the Youth Network has a number of different working groups, and obviously you will be in a position to know what they are based on the information that Liliana has sent out to the members. And now we can see that sexuality and relationships is firmly embedded within that process. And what we want to do is to engage, similar to how the other working groups operate, is to engage at least with at least 2 meetings a year, using virtual technology to bring us together, because we're based across Europe. And this is an opportunity really just to explore what is key to the working group, but also reflecting what came out of the study session as a starting point from that. And on the next slide, which I don't know if it's being sent around or you can see it, but we have a number of members, 10 in total, and myself as a task group coordinator. And membership includes some individuals who were at the study session. It also includes individuals who applied, but because we were inundated with applications, we couldn't offer a place to everybody. So at least this task group gives people an opportunity to bring together those who went and those who wanted to go to the study session, as well as a number of individuals who have a keen interest in this topic and want to explore it within the realms of social activism and social justice. And the starting point for I'll finish on this slide, the starting point for our work, because I believe our meeting is this week, the first meeting of the task group is this week, but there's really 6 key areas that we want to start to develop, which we'll look at in terms of how realistic they are, and also in terms of what can be achieved dependent on our budget and the way that we operate as a youth network and as subgroups within the youth network. So there are 6 key areas of the work plan which have been inspired by the study session, and they include the aspects around thinking about where does sex education, where is it included within the wider debate on inclusive education. So this idea that we're going to move towards an education system designed for all learners. And when ENIL and other organisations are passionately campaigning and demanding and working collaboratively with member states and so forth, how are they ensuring that sex education is part of the wider debate around inclusive education, so that we actually recognise the importance of giving young people, disabled or not, an opportunity to explore what we mean by sex education for all, what we mean by sexuality for everybody, not specifically around the dominant characteristics within society. And then the second one was around looking at how the media is covering the topic of sex and disability, thinking about the social pressures that causes for many people and the marginalization they experience because the media in many of our Western societies and across Europe is focused predominantly on an ableist approach, which Carl has already covered in her short presentation. Another one was around the issue of working with the European Parliament to consider how we can develop and build relationships with the Director General for Health within the European Commission, and to then work collaboratively in a co-productive model to actually support and agree that policies need to shift in order to take on board the severity of what we're talking about in terms of its impact as well as its ideas. And then we looked at issues around how do we utilize social media to push forward with disability and sexuality, and also around going back to what I said at the beginning of the presentation, looking at what are other organizations and individuals known to ENIL and not known to ENIL doing on the subject of disability and sexuality, so that we can collaboratively work alongside organizations to support them, but also to map out and be a conduit for all different organizations, because as we know, the European Network on Independent Living, as well as ENIL Youth, has a position in Europe to act as a conduit where it feeds information and links people together and supports people because of its presence online and also in the field across Europe. So those are the 6 areas that we wanted to try to explore. And I hope that, for those who are listening to this presentation, that you'll be in a position to, whether you went to the study session, whether you want to go to the study session, whether you're a member of the task group or not, is to play an active role in what we're doing in order to continue this debate and continue pushing forward with what we're doing around sexuality and disability, in order to inform the debate and keep the richness of the conversation developing, but also to support us in terms of moving forward with our activism, with the general progress that we're making within the social movements, to highlight the significance of sexuality and disability. Because I think what was quite clear at the study session, and also as my background as a researcher in activism and social movements, is that we saw a general marginalization of this topic within the wider debate on inclusion for disabled people. Very often we're thinking about the materialistic issues around access to services, around personal assistance, around education and so forth. And whilst those all have a key part to play in terms of developing our ideas around sexuality, sometimes the actual topic itself of sex and relationships gets dismissed as a focal point of the research, and is seen as a focal point of the social activism, and is seen as an opportunity to improve whilst we go along the journey of trying to access services in the wider sense. So I'll stop there and I'll hand back to Leon. I don't know how you want to play it in terms of time for questions, or indeed if the technology allows us to do that. But thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Miro. I do apologize, but I'm finding it very hard to cope with that system, so I cannot see how I can unmute microphones of participants. So I cannot hear you, and I do promise that we are going to find some way to find a way to compensate you to continue that topic. But unfortunately for this particular moment I cannot give the floor to participants, which is awful. But what I can tell you for sure is that we can proceed this conversation via emails, and our next webinar is going to definitely use another platform which is very, very easy for using. There is nothing to be confused there, so you're going to have your chance to ask your questions then. Please keep an eye on our Facebook group of the Youth Network, and you can always email me. You have my contacts. And I'm going also to send you the PowerPoint presentations that Alex, Carl, and Miro used, and which you couldn't see, I think. Once again, apologies, and please keep your interest. Next time we'll do better, I promise. If Miro, Alex, and Carl have any concluding thoughts, I mute your microphone so you can say whatever you want.
No, just from my point of view, I hope it was useful, and I'm more than happy to engage in any conversation or dialogue, or answer any questions, or indeed listen to any challenges going forward.
Thanks, Miro.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Alex.
Oh, okay. I would like to thank to all participants for bearing with us with the delay, and we are happy to, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of everybody. We are happy to receive questions, whatever interests you. You are free to ask. We have a Facebook group in case you are not a member of a Facebook group. You can ask there, or you can ask us directly the questions. We will be happy to answer all the questions you might have.
Thank you, Alex. Carl, do you want to say anything?
I just want to say thank you to everybody to listen us, and I hope that we can talk in another opportunity and discuss about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You're going to receive my email tomorrow. So have a good night, and stay tuned for our next event. Bye-bye.